Hey guys, what's going on? Today we are going to be reading something a tad bit differently, just because my friends suggested it to me. So today we're going to be reading a pornography fiction of SpongeBob entitled Sandy's Hot Day by Dark Claw Great One underscore Nass. So, without further ado, let's read this. SpongeBob was feeling more excited than was usual for him. He had the whole day planned with his friends Patrick and Sandy. The three of them had gotten their heads together and decided they should have a party to commemorate Sandy's 5th year living in Bikini Bottom. He was just getting ready to go out the door to bike down to Sandy's street home when his pet snail Gary meowed a question.
"What's up, Gary? I didn't forget something, did I?"
Gary meowed a negative, and then made a suggestion to his owner.
"Why would I need to call ahead? Sandy knows we're coming over today."
Gary insisted, though. So SpongeBob nodded.
"All right, Gary. I guess I couldn't hurt to let her know."
So saying, SpongeBob happily made his way over the phone and dialed Sandy's number. After 4 or 5 ringing, she finally picked up. Hello?
Hello?
SpongeBob thought his squirrel friend sounded a little odd today, but paid no real mind to it, as what his want.
"Hey, Sandy. You all ready for the party?"
Oh, SpongeBob, something, came up. I'm sorry. I'm far too busy to have a party today. Something was definitely wrong. Sandy was always up for having fun.
"Is something wrong, Sandy?"
No, ain't nothing wrong. I just can't have anyone over today. SpongeBob was about to say something else, but she cut him off. Look, I really have to go. Bye, SpongeBob. SpongeBob heard the click as Sandy hung up on him. He'd never felt so confused in his life. Sandy took her phone from the phone, breathing hard. That had been too close. Though she hated lying to her friend, she couldn't let herself be seen like this. She let her hand fall between her legs as she lay back in the chair. Her clothes lay discarded across the room as her fingers stroked the puffy lip of her sex. Boy, I sometimes really hate being a mammal. These heat cycles are murder. Spreading her legs a little, the squirrel worked her fingers into her dripping passage. She moaned softly as she spread the lips of her pussy enough to emit 3 or 4 fingers. Buckling her hips against her hands a few times, pleasure rocketing through her body, but it wasn't enough. It never was just her fingers. Sighing a little, the naked squirrel began massaging her breast with one hand while thrusting her fingers into her pussy with the other. The extra stimulation helped, but she still needed more. With another sigh, she picked up the large dildo she had purchased in her homeland of Texas for that very purpose. It was about a foot long, maybe 3 inches thick, and covered in little bumps and ridges that she knew would rub her in her rolls and heighten her pleasure immensely. The sex toy also had a vibrator feature, which, with varying speed and intensity. Why am I even reading that? You know what? Let's keep going. She spread her legs wider and placed the tip of the dildo at her entrance, setting the vibration to their lowest setting before slowly starting to push it into her body. Her pussy was already well lubricated from her earlier masturbation, so the toy slid easily into her love tunnel. Sandy closed her eyes and she pressed the toy deeper, her back already arching in pleasure as she felt the fullness between her legs once again. Her thoughts slipped away easily into her most private sexual fantasies as she felt the dildo hit her cervix. In her mind's eye, she saw him again, the dragon of her diva's dream. He was tall, almost 13, and immensely strong, the muscles of his chest rippling with power as he thrusted his huge cock into her. Are they talking about Alduin here? His ebony scales shone with sweat, mute testament to how much effort he was putting behind his thrust. She moaned lustily as he took her closer and closer to the brink of orgasming, smiling at her as he fondled her breast, teasing her nipples with his clawed hands. She could already feel his warm prey leaking into her mind afire with pleasure as she hovered at the brink of ultimate bliss. Then, with one final mighty thrust, she buried the thick shaft deep in her womb. He began to come, roaring his pleasure to the world. Sandy wasn't far behind him as her own orgasm took her to the moon and back, her scream of climax echoing off the walls. This just got so strange. Her dragon gave her a few moments to rest before flipping her onto her belly and pressing the tip of his still rock-hard cock against the ring of her tail hole. She looked back over her shoulder, her eyes filled with the need to be filled once more with his mighty dragonhood, and he didn't disappoint her. With a single thrust, she felt him penetrate her anal entrance, pumping deep into her ass. His kind of treatment, her femme cum soaking her inner thighs and her dragon balls, even as they started to unload in her gut, filling her bowels with a rich, warm dragon spunk until it almost looked like she was pregnant. He held her close for several more minutes after he finished unloading in her guts, tenderly stroking her cum-filled belly. Sandy sighed in contentment as he pulled out of her ass, letting loose a torrent of cum. It was at that point that she came back to reality, pulling the dildo from her tailhole and tearing it off. As usual, she had turned the vibration to the maximum level during her fantasy, and her hand smelled strongly of her own sex juices, but at least her heat had been sated for now. She cleaned up the mess she had made, carefully making sure to get rid of the smell before stepping into the shower to get herself cleaned up. As she was lathering her fur, Sandy thought about the fantasy dragon. She really didn't know why the dragon was a perfect man in mind, but if it got to her in heat, she didn't care. Relaxing under the warm water, the Texas squirrel sighed to herself.
I can't tell SpongeBob. He never understand. I'm not even sure I do.
The end.
And yeah, that's it. I know I said a few things wrong here, and I'm pretty sure this fan fiction was even worse. But yeah, that's it. Have fun with this. I'm out.